All right, so it's the 27th of September 2024. My name is Evan Strong. I am the founder of In The Image Clothing Company. I actually have these headphones in my hand because I was going to film the second episode of the In The Image Clothing Company podcast, and I don't know how to get the audio to come through the headphone mic rather than through the phone. So the first episode of In The Image Clothing Company podcast, it's still great, but the audio was just through the phone, and I had these headphones on the entire time. Anyway, so I have these with me, but as of right here, right now, we're not going to be filming the second episode of the podcast for In The Image Clothing Company podcast. But yes, In The Image Clothing Company, I'll do a little intro, and then we'll get into what I'm talking about, because this is going to be huge. I actually already did discuss this a little bit. Well, that's not even... I've discussed this in just about every single video that I ever make about clothing, or just In The Image Clothing Company related at all. So, we'll do a little intro because I always do. As I said, my name is Evan Strong. I am the founder of In The Image Clothing Company, and we are so much more than just a clothing company. We are a company that is a community of people geared around how we are all universally designed in the image of our living God, Jesus Christ. And I make very bold claims here at In The Image Clothing Company, how we should not have to stretch. I don't, and I've gone over how I used to feel like I need to, and I would stretch and stretch and stretch and never feel like I got to normal. And now I never stretch, and I just have natural mobility and flexibility. And you see things within the videos that I've posted, how my body just works. Yes, so we talk about the skeletal system here at In The Image Clothing Company, because all the musculature of the body does is operate and move and pivot and hinge and rotate the skeletal system. So really the body is about the foundation, right? There is a plane. We live by an airport here, so it's funny because I'm always filming videos outside, and there's a car, truck, there's airplanes, right? But, yes, so my prerequisites have always been the same since before I even founded the company, and they will always be this way: to lace any shoe that you wear with the technique found within where you find any information from In The Image Clothing Company. That lacing technique just allows the shoe to fit on your foot like a glove does on the hand, right? Allowing protection while fitting correct, right? Within the shoe's design's capability, right? There might be a stiff sole, a smaller toe box than the actual foot shape, but all human beings have the foot shaped how the foot is shaped. There's the same bones and muscles and tendons and ligaments in there. It only works how it works. It's another one of my very bold claims that is true. These claims that I'm talking about are true claims, but they just sound crazy if you don't know what I'm talking about. But we can't tell our bodies what to do. I've talked about this time and time again. That goes for I, nor he, nor she, any human to ever live. We cannot tell our bodies what to do. Their response to us in those times is getting sore or getting tight muscles. Essentially, what we're doing when we're having laces incorrect within our shoes, or tags within clothing, or things just not fitting correct, that's us telling our bodies what to do. And they don't do anything besides what they do. They were designed by our living God to work in their one position. I made a video called "The Body Only Has One Position," and I went into it in very great depth. We have one functional position that we do everything out of. We hinge, we pivot, we bend, we reach, we do all the things we need to from this one position. So, I didn't quite finish my prerequisites, but they will always be the same. They have been since before I founded the company that is In The Image Clothing Company. Lacing your shoes, like I said, with the technique found where you find In The Image Clothing Company media or information at all. That includes just tying them evenly over toward the inside on both shoes, right, to reinforce that natural internal rotation, really just to allow it to happen up the entirety of your body. Pairing that with removing the tags from within the tongues of your shoes or anywhere inside of the shoe that they are, and again, traveling up the entirety of every item of clothing that you wear. I personally have made videos on each and every one of those tags in their locations and what it does to the universally designed human body. I didn't know how I was going to word that, but the point is it alters the body. It doesn't allow the body to operate the way it naturally would. And That's all we need to do, is let our bodies operate how they would, because we were designed to work. We do recognize our slight differences here at In The Image Clothing Company. We talk a lot about deformities, surgeries, amputations. If you got part of your body paralyzed, whatever it could be, we do have our slight differences. That goes for every one of us, but we are universally designed, foundationally, right? Okay, so there's my intro, and I've talked about this, and I've talked about it, like I said, in just about every video I mention this, because we are so much more than just a clothing company. We will have clothing available to purchase, made out of 100% natural materials. Our clothing will never have any kind of branding or logoing on the exterior of it, right? Beautiful clothing. Beautiful because it's going to sit on the body the way that it has to allow the universal human design to do what it's designed to do, okay? The shoulder seams on top need to sit behind the shoulders. The ones at the edges should go no farther than the edges of the shoulders, just to allow rotations and movement and mobility naturally without having to try to train something that was designed to work, being our bodies, right? Pants will always sit above the hips, slightly higher in the front than in the rear. These are things that will always be incorporated into In The Image Clothing Company designs. Yes, but when hanging clothes, I did a video actually called, I don't know the exact title as of now, but it was something like the importance of hanging clothes. It might have been what it was, actually. Or the importance of hangers, something like that. But I've discussed, as I just mentioned, the shoulder seams on the universally designed human body have to sit behind the top of the shoulders. And so I'm going to say this on both ends so you can hear it correct. The hanger needs to be in front of the shoulder seams, or the shoulder seams need to be behind the hanger, right? Same thing, but whatever way you want to think about it or hear it for it to make more sense the way that you would understand it, right? The best. So you see these seams, shoulder seams, are behind the hanger, or the hanger is in front of the shoulder seams, okay? On both sides, evenly. And this is how clothing must, not my opinion. Again, we don't have opinions that we're pushing here at In The Image Clothing Company. We speak on universal truth. Some of it may be shocking, but you just don't know until you know. I didn't know until I knew, and now I have founded this company on things that are just insanely easy. Meaning, our God does not make mistakes, okay? Our bodies may not look how we think we want them or operate how we think we want them, but they're that way for a reason, to teach us things or whatever it may be, okay? And we don't have opinions here at the company that is In The Image Clothing Company, at the community that is In The Image Clothing Company. We just speak on truth, universal, undisputed. Every single human across the globe can do these things within their clothing that we discuss and talk about at In The Image Clothing Company, and it applies. This is universal truth, undisputed. It is not my opinion or the company's opinion, okay? I just want to be very, very, very blunt and bold about that because it's true. So, they need to sit evenly behind the hanger, or again, the hanger needs to be evenly in front of the shoulder seams. Now this is debatably one of the most essential things ever within clothing. And I've talked about breathing patterns and how they, the shirt that we wear play into breathing patterns. I don't know, I mean, I could go into anything and everything, right? Rotations within the body, all the things I've discussed. Again, undisputed, universal truth, no opinions in any of this at all. But, the big thing is, I've talked about the collar seam, right? Sometimes there's a collar seam that I call the dreaded collar seam. It is terrible. I've shown a little modification you can do to try to allow it to sit more even and flat on your body, but if you do have a collar seam, your shoulders will never be able to be naturally healthy, and you will never be able to breathe natural. Universal, every single human, that is how it is. That goes for I included, every human. I'm no different than anybody else, right? In that kind of sense, right? So, collar seams are just terrible. Don't have them, but if you do have them, I'm not trying to tell you have to throw away your clothing, but I do have a modification that I have talked about. I made a video called Naturally Healthy Shoulders. Again, universal truth, not trying to push an opinion. And within that I showed the modification, and I think actually within the other video I was talking about hangers, I also showed in that, I'm pretty sure, the modification to do. And it's probably somewhere else also within the Image Clothing Company content you can find. But if you do not have these seams behind the hanger, when you hang it, your upper traps will get tight, your breathing patterns will be altered, your neck will have tension, your shoulders will have pain. Period, and done, every single human, because I say we should not have to stretch. And again, not some claim, I don't stretch. And universally, all humans within their own situation, if they do the things that we're sharing freely, universal truth here at In the Image Clothing Company, you will also, within your own situation, right, not have to stretch. Ever. I mean, unless something very major happens, we do not have to stretch. Our bodies are designed to work, but if you put a shirt on a hanger like this and it dries that way, this is pretty well in the right spot, but this side's like wrapping over, or you know, vice versa, it doesn't matter which side. Okay, and you let it dry that way, then it sits on your body. Instead of being like this, it would sit on my body like this, and I kind of step this way because that's what it'll do. Or if it sits on your body like this, you'll kind of fall this way. Okay, yeah, I mean, it's going to happen. Every single human, universal human design, undisputed universal truth. Okay, if you put these on the hanger and they're kind of like this over the front, then well, now you go from this nice natural internally rotated shoulder position and internally rotated legs, posterior tuck of the pelvis, active core, the position I'm always in. I mean, I'm 6'2", but I usually have, there's also a little bit of a hill here, but right, look how tall I am compared to where the camera is. I usually have the camera a little bit lower because I actually like to be in a naturally active position to discuss things and to, you know, it's just very comfortable and natural to be activated, right? And I've gone into so much of the human body in great depth, undisputed universal truth, okay? But yes, if these seams were sitting on the hanger in front of it like this, then I would not be able to do this right now. Me being me, Evan Strong, the founder of In the Image Clothing Company, I would not even be able to talk like this, because I would be like this, and my back would be trying to do all the work, really being forced to, have to, rather than, you know, my posterior chain and all this stuff. I mean, I've gone over just the body itself, right? I've shown the natural walking human gait cycle, barefooted in the grass, just the way that it is, the only way the body works. I've talked about, did a video called There Is a Lot to Internal Rotation. I went in very great depth on that. I'm not just some clothing designer. I'm not, you know, talking down on clothing designers, but the reason I am a clothing designer is for the body, the universally designed human body, to work as it was designed to work. And I didn't design it, and neither did you or he or she. Our God designed us to work how we work. And so, again, that's all we are doing here at In the Image Clothing Company, is sharing and spreading information on how to allow the body to do what it was designed to do. So, obviously, meaning if you do know In the Image Clothing Company at all, prerequisites for everything ever are to remove all tags. Again, not an opinion of mine. I've gone into very, very, very great depth on each and every one of them and what they do. Protruding tags, right? This one actually has like ink stamped tag. I'm not going to show you just for the sake of it's a brand, right? I'm not trying to show other brands necessarily, but like that's how I think legally there's probably just about no way around it nowadays in 2024 to not have information on clothing, company's name, country of origin, washing instructions, material that is made out of, stuff like that. But I've also gone over, tags did not exist within clothing a few decades back, and then back to forever from there. It's new. A lot of these things are new. Materials within clothing are new. Man-made materials are new and terrible for the body. So all these things that I'm talking about, yeah, no opinions. We don't have opinions here at In the Image Clothing Company. We do not. So yes, the point is, I'll walk around, or I'll see my own family, or even really what prompted this video today, because like I said, I've already discussed this, and we'll always talk about this within In the Image Clothing Company podcast. Anytime, you know, within the community, you're sharing things with other people. This is one of the biggest things, right? You will never, again, I could never have naturally functioning shoulders, be able to breathe naturally, have naturally, you know, working body in any part of it, right? If the shoulder seams did not sit behind the tops of my shoulders. Universal human design, every single human. I mean, yeah, I'm not gonna get all picky with, what about somebody who doesn't even have arms and their shoulders look like this and whatever. Again, we recognize people got their own situations, and that's totally always going to be that way. But then we address those things if and when they come up, right? But yeah, so what I was starting to say there is what actually prompted me to kind of almost do like almost like a second video on the same thing is, well, first of all, I mean, that was over a month ago. I have a lot more knowledge now about clothing. My body personally works a lot better now, and now we are officially a company at In the Image Clothing Company. And when I made that video, I was just kind of making free videos, right? This one's also free, but I just mean out of me, Evan Strong, rather than out of the company of In the Image Clothing Company. So I woke up this morning. I had done laundry a couple days ago, and then my mom actually ended up putting it into the dryer, and I live with my mom right now, and she then pulled it out of the dryer, and it was just kind of sitting in like a laundry basket, right? But I hang everything because of what I'm showing here. And it's very important to, and not just throw it on a hanger, but do it very evenly for your body's health, okay? These should be back behind the hanger, or the hanger needs to be in front of the shoulder seams. Same thing, worded differently, okay? This is the front of the shirt. This is the rear of the shirt, okay? See where the seams sit. So the point is, I put on a shirt that did not get hung up, right? It was a red shirt, just a t-shirt, one that I've worn within videos I already made that you have the potential to see if you have seen my videos. And my traps, this muscle up here that raises and lowers the shoulder, comes up, attaches to the edges of the spine on both sides in your cervical spine, right in your neck. My traps were getting tight and tense within about a minute and a half of having that shirt on, not being hung. It's not necessarily about the hanger, but it's about the designs of clothing. That's why we will have our own designs, and we are making clothing as being In the Image Clothing Company, because the design of the shirt, usually a big part is, you see how this comes back? Oh, I'll get a little closer. See, this comes back, and then it comes like from where the back of your neck is, right? This is like the very back of your neck, and it comes forward and then over for the shoulder seams. So if this was actually on me and my neck was taking up the space of this collar, then this seam would sit more on top of my shoulders. Do you see that? And so it's things like that we're going to fix. And by fix, I just mean make available within our designs at In the Image Clothing Company, to where we don't have these problems, because the body only works the way that the body works. You can be a man or a woman. You can be 500 pounds or 100 pounds. You can be 80 years old or 13. The body works the way the body works, the skeletal system, okay? The rotations. I've gone over it. I mean, this is not opinion. It's undisputed truth. I've discussed this, explained it all in such great depth within other videos. So the point with saying that so like boldly is, it was about a minute and a half. I had that shirt on, and my upper traps were getting tight, okay? Just because these seams were not sitting behind my shoulders. See this internal rotation? You think about what people would call good posture. I do not use the word posture. We should never be conscious of anything within our bodies, because that's essentially telling them what to do. The body wants to work, okay? But what people would call good posture is the way that I stand, right? Just because my body works naturally, the way that it was designed, universally by our God, okay? If I'm standing with, again, what people would call good posture, internal rotation needs to be able to happen, okay? Getting those shoulders in their natural position to be able to reach up, forward, out, be able to rotate a lot, right? Again, I do not stretch, I do not do mobility exercises, no, just because we do not have to within our own situations. We just need to allow our clothing to sit on our body correct. So, yes, okay, behind the shoulders, okay, meaning behind the hanger or the hanger in front of the seams. As if the hanger is your shoulders, these seams would then be behind your shoulders, okay? This is the rear of the shirt. Okay, so I want to hit that hard because it's very important. But I will also say, if you have clothing that these seams, like this is the armpit, if you will, of the sleeve, if these seams are sewn and then pinned one direction or the other, oh, sorry. And I've gone over this in other videos also, but if the seam comes down and it's like pinned flat this way or this way, and then it's, well, just that alone, that's going to either pull you this way or this way without you having a say in it, okay? Or I, in those cases. I would also get affected the exact same as any other human would. But this one, see, it's nice because it comes down even. Comes down even, okay? But if you have unevenness, you don't want it to be pinned down either direction. And I've gone over this again in very great depth. This was over a month and a half ago probably. But then if they're going opposite, now, yeah, you're just gonna have no chance to function normally at all. I would also, in those cases, have no chance to function normally at all, okay? So same thing though, depending on what material the shirt is made out of, ideally we're wearing 100% natural materials because the body is natural also, okay? Let's mesh nature with nature. But a lot of fake man-made clothing, they'll do that kind of thing where they pin it one direction or the other up here, and it'll come out, and the shoulder seams will then be pinned going opposite ways. And so now the tops of your shoulders, not only is the seam sitting in the wrong location, being like, again, just not behind your shoulders where it should be, but now it's twisting you. So you're just constantly living life with a physical piece of fabric on top of your shoulders twisting you. And you're not going to fight that. I am not going to fight that. Or we can fight it all we want. We would never, in those cases, win that fight. Could not happen. Okay, not I nor any human ever. It's very important to mention also, if you ever watch anything from me, unless I'm really just kind of wearing something that day that's not quite ideal, you'll just about never see me adjusting my clothing. When I'm bending over like this and then I go back to standing, about 35 seconds ago, before I started saying that, I kind of adjusted my shoulder a little bit, and that's what got me to think about that, because I don't do that because we shouldn't have to. What that'll do is use muscle, stabilizing muscles, and muscles in ways they are not designed to do things, to try to just hold our clothing onto us, and that's not good for any human, I nor he or she, because it should just sit on the body so the body can do its thing, okay? Again, like I'm bent over like quite a lot, but it's healthy, it's even, it's centered, it's active, it's natural, arches of the feet, internal rotation. But then when I stand up, my shirt just sits where it needs to, and it just stays in, like I said, that video I made, the only human position. The human body only has one position, right? You gotta kind of hear what I'm saying before that can really be that much of like a blanket statement, but it's not a blanket statement. The body has its position, and from here it can squat, from here it can bend, from here it can reach, but it's this natural, internal, active position. We don't have to try to train or learn, we just have to stop restricting, okay? So, huge, huge, huge. Shoulder seams behind the tops of the shoulders, or the shoulders themselves need to be in front of the shoulder seam. Same thing, worded differently, okay? And then again, if there's any kind of seams within anywhere, even down here. I mentioned we should never have side seams, at least in the shirts that are directly on us. Now, button-ups just about always do, but they're more flat and even, and they don't twist or rotate when you pull. But I'm talking about like an actual t-shirt type of shirt, like against your body. Like if this one were to have side seams, I've talked about what that does. What I'm saying in this video is, yeah, anytime there's any seams pinned down rather than coming straight out, right? This comes straight down and it comes straight out, okay? Anytime they're pinned one direction or the other, even if they're even, it's pulling your body this way or this way. Really, it's like essentially trying to pull you into internal rotation or external rotation, but that's unnatural, right? The key word being pulling, or like forcing the body into one position over the other. And no, the body has a natural center line. I've gone over this. We live on a vertical globe with gravity pulling us straight down. If we are off balance this way, we'll either fall, or this way we'll either fall or have to use stabilizing muscles to try to accommodate an imbalance to keep us vertical when we're being pulled straight down from the center, okay? But that also goes for any kind of rotation that is out of its natural alignment, okay? And that's what these seams are doing. As small as they may seem, no pun intended, but seriously, as insignificant as you might think that they are, your life will change if you listen to the things that we speak on here at In The Image Clothing Company, because we do not share opinions. We're just speaking on universal truth, okay? So, yes. I mean, I don't like to be redundant. Certain cases, though, like this, I mean, the point is I already made a video talking about how shirts should hang, but the importance to what that really means is something that, like, you couldn't even possibly imagine until you do it and realize how, like, thankful your body is to you, I guess is a good way to word that. So, yes. Okay. I always talk about, too, how we shouldn't have to sit down. Sitting at that close to 90-degree position in the hips and knees is very, very unnatural anyway. But then people are sitting because it's hard for them to stand because of their clothing, or just the patternings their body itself is in because of clothing after years. You know, again, undisputed truth. I've gone into all this, but what I'm getting at is, you'll feel like you need to kind of like rest or sit down, but then sitting down won't actually rest you. Again, things I've gone into because it's not a natural position for the body. So yeah, seams will always in the Image Clothing Company clothing designs sit behind the shoulders, okay? Always within our designs. Like, yes, they will. And this, I mean, you can see this seam right here is actually in the front of the top of my shoulder, but within button-ups, this whole band here is essentially one thing. It's like a shoulder seam, right? And so it actually sits behind the shoulders. I love button-up shirts. I've mentioned we're gonna have awesome button-up shirts in the Image Clothing Company designs, short sleeve, long sleeve, beautiful button-up shirts that just allow the body to work. So again, not something to take lightly, not something to have an opinion on. It's not my opinion. It's just how the body works, and there's no choice. No, like, you can't decide that you want it to be some way. I can't decide that I want it to be some way. I mean, truth is truth, okay? But here's the other thing. I personally, and we will always, as a company at In The Image Clothing Company, like when we have our clothing, if we ever have it on hangers, and as long as there's anything I can do to say about it, unless I'm like not actually physically at the location, but we're going to always have the opening of the hanger toward the left, okay? And we'll get into a lot of that probably within podcasts and stuff. I mean, it's a lot we're going to talk about, but also if you have any kind of hanger that almost like waterfalls, if you will, toward one direction more than the other, put that waterfalling toward the back, right? Because then if it's slipping off of that, it'll go into more of a correct position, okay? So yes, beautiful truth. Do this. Not because I'm telling you to, but because it's the only way your body works, all right? And mine and his and hers. So, yes. All right. Yeah. In the Image Clothing Company, it is official. It is what it is. It's going to be awesome. It already is awesome. I've already got so many videos, content like this, undisputed universal truth of the relationship between clothing and the human body in its natural workings, designed by our God, Jesus Christ, and we don't get to tell it what to do. None of us do, okay? So, we have now the first episode of the podcast, which was just me for that first episode, and it might be that way for quite a few of them, but we will also eventually have more people on the podcast. We do have our official domain, InTheImageClothingCompany.com. As of today, the date that I said it, the website is still under construction, but it will be up and running. So, depending on when you're seeing this, you might just be able to go straight there. We will have clothing there. Again, the only reason we need to sell clothing, it's not about us, like, I mean, yes, I'm trying to make a living as well, but there's so much abundance of clothing, at least here in the United States of America, but we need to have natural materials meshing with the natural body, and our clothing will always be 100% natural materials. And really the point is it needs to sit where it needs to sit on the body. So if you do ever purchase anything from In the Image Clothing Company, please just make sure that you purchase it in your size, right? It's not going to do you any good as far as out of our designing what we're intending on happening if you purchase it oversized, because the seams need to sit where the body pivots. We don't get to tell our bodies what to do, okay? So, thank you. Again, I'll state the date one more time. It is the 27th of September, 2024. My name is Evan Strong. I am the founder of In the Image Clothing Company. And please, again, zero opinion of mine, please have your shoulder seams sit behind the tops of your shoulders, okay? And this will be timeless, universal, forever. I've talked about how I have a trained eye and I can see people just walking down the street. I can see people within movies or TV shows, and I can see the position that their body is in and the mobility that they're lacking, the rotations that they're lacking, or any kind of like position they're chronically stuck in, right? Again, until fixed. And I can see what it is within their clothing that is causing their body to operate the way that it is, okay? So this is not some opinion, this is universal for every human. The point with that's a point in itself, but what I was also kind of getting at is I can watch videos from many decades back, right? Even back to when there wasn't man-made materials within clothing, to when there wasn't any kind of tags protruding in the insides of clothing, and these things still apply, right? It's just those things amplify the hindrance that clothing is to the workings of the human body in the only way that it works, okay? Again, we do not speak opinions. We have our own opinions. We are all human beings. We are all sinful by nature. But here at In the Image Clothing Company, when we are giving information to the public like this, it is out of universal truth, undisputed. Every single human, any human on any part of the globe can do these things, try these things within their own clothing, within their own body, and they can and do and will apply. So, In the Image Clothing Company, again, I am the founder. This is how it's always going to look. Very bold claims because they are true. We are going to spread the information that we can that is universal to help the world, the globe, not really the world in the sense of like being worldly, but the earth, the people of the earth, human beings, sons and daughters of our living God, Jesus Christ. And yes, again, the clothing that we wear is the only thing that is physically placed onto our physical person at all times, okay? It's the only thing that can alter or have the potential to alter and affect our physical person, our physical bodies at all times, okay? So it's very, very important to realize what it is doing to us. And that's what I do, being the founder of In the Image Clothing Company, and that's how it will always be, even after I die and somebody else is running this company, okay? So, yes, thank you. More to come. I'm excited for the podcast. As I've talked about, as I said last night within the first episode of the podcast, that's probably going to be one of my personal most enjoyment type of things out of this whole company as it grows and gets bigger and whatever. I just love to talk. As you can tell, I'm very fluent in speaking. And so it was just me last night. I didn't really even plan on making the first episode of the podcast, but I just was trying to see if the headphones would work. It turns out, like I said, the mic wasn't actually coming, the sound wasn't coming from the mic of the headphones, it was actually coming from my phone. But I just enjoyed speaking and talking and discussing things that are great. So a lot of it's going to be just gospel topics and discussions, right? The gospel of Jesus Christ, because that's what this company is founded on and centered around, just as everything in ever is centered around, because he created it all. So yes. Okay, thank you. Stick around. Please remember, not for me necessarily, but because it's universal truth, that your shoulder seams have to sit behind the tops of your shoulders. For the reasons I mentioned, not my opinion. Thank you. Yeah, it's gonna be great.